Still working through the read of The Godly Laughter by Claes Jansens. And in this chapter, he's focusing on how to fulfill yourself with the existence you have by focusing on love and what it means, and by understanding the basic traits of being in life. And if you do that, you can go along with your life in a more healthy manner. It seems to me this chapter, where he focuses on the psychology of Peter Kostenbaum, is based on the idea that anything that's happening to you is your responsibility. If you are unhappy, it's because you have to do something about it. It's all related to your inner world and self. At the same time, he is also mentioning that it's about how you think, and your consciousness about the world and what you think of it and how you think of yourself is also just as important, because it gives you the inner world and affects it. He mentioned like a river, getting and taking, and that in that way staying fresh, while the closed one, the lake, does not, it only takes the water and doesn't give back and has a different character. He's mentioning that related to love, but it is also a picture of both the thoughts and the psyche. And so this kind of psychology is focused on the awareness of yourself and what you do, and that's what I'm gonna look through in this chapter. That is a lot easier than the previous one to get around, but still with some deep meaning. And I will start with the 16 principles for authentic existence. That's what it's about, to live authentically with yourself, with the I that has been mentioned in a previous chapter, and I read into earlier in a previous video. Those 16 principles are the following. It is the pain, death, reflection, self-awareness, self-confidence, individuality, the eternal, life, engagement, the look in reality, adaptation, time, and contradiction, then love. I think there is one missing. It comes here. It's the choice or decision. Choice and decision. And so everything that makes meaning for the human is connected to these 16 issues that he talks about. The chapter is not about them, but I chose to focus on them because it makes sense to understand everything in the light of these principles or mirrors for our existence. And so the pain, he starts with the pain. And why not? It is one of the most vitalizing and deeply affecting part of life. And so the action here and the role you have is to try to learn to live with that pain, or to accept it and turn it into something vitalizing, so your pain become precious, and it becomes something you see as valuable. And that's not easy, because we run away from pain and we try to avoid it. And the traditional explanation of happiness is that you, from the old times of the Greeks, it's that you avoid pain and you try to get painless life of fulfillment. So pain is the gate to a lot of different other things. The angst, the guilt, the anger, the depression, the confusion. It is kind of a gate to many of what we feel and think. And so that's why not many people like Schopenhauer, because he says that without any kind of filter, that life is pain and suffering. The second one is death, and death is the limiter of life, and it's the one that makes you value life or stop living it, as we talked about in the previous difficult chapter. Then there is reflection. That's a great ability in humans, and he's not mentioning meta-reflection, but that's there too. It's to reflect over the reflection, so you can look back and see, what am I actually doing right now? How did that meeting go? What way did I speak to those people? How are my feelings? And what kind of signs am I showing? And all that we can do surrounding ourselves and others in every situation. We can reflect, we can go back and try to see ourselves from the outside, or just have a peek into that understanding, being outside ourselves. But the double layer in this is that you can go outside yourself and at the same time look at how you're looking at yourself. And that's deep and very important and precious for the humans, that you can not only look at yourself, but you are also able to go into those tools of how you look into yourself. And that's the double action in that reflection. And so the confidence of life and of yourself, this is related to the archetypes of Jung, but he's not really going into it. He's merely mentioning it. But it's about giving up some of the connections and illusions and attachments that you have in life. Mom and dad, the savior, the picture of yourself as must be something special or not special. All that comes out of self-confidence. And so individuality and the process of individuation, to avoid being just like everyone else and going your own ways, and the eternal, that is like having the opposite idea of life than what death brings you. It's the thought that there is something that can last forever, or it doesn't seem to last forever. It's like centralizing your thoughts and ideas away from the life around you and into the center of your core, your identity. Who am I, and am I here forever or not? And what is it that points in which direction? So there is also life in itself, and that's to be in life and accept it. Accept, I am in this life and I have my consciousness as I have. Let me deal with that. And that's part of what existential psychology try to make you confirm life and understand that you are here for a reason. And if you would speak of this more often, you will understand that the confirmation of life is like your way into yourself. Engagement, I am free to engage myself in a manner that makes me responsible for my engagement. And that's also what fills life with meaning, usually. And there is reality. Reality is understanding life as it is and making a distinction between what's real and what's fantasy, what is wish and intentions, and what is possible in the time being. It can be a scary distinction. And he hasn't talked about this before very much, but the whole book is about connecting to reality as a human being. And what happens when we don't, or when we run away from it, or understand our limitations in it. Because in our mind and fantasy, we can everything, we want everything, we have the will and the intentions. But then we are hit by reality, and that's what sometimes brings us out of that balance or that strength of self-confidence, and shakes our world totally by disappointments, by being non-accepted, by being in suffering, and in many kind of tiredness of life. You don't want it anymore. You don't want to go on. It's enough. And that brings depression and psychosis sometimes, or at least neuroticism. On the other hand, you can become psychopathic and become outlashing aggressive because of that as well. He's not speaking on that in detail. It's again my combination of this with what I understand. And the second one is adaptation, to be flexible in your life and to choose the good and right choice, and to be able to adapt to people and situations and the things we are in, and to keep your balance at the same time. So it's nothing we usually do, he says, but it's a kind of recommendation, something that can be part of our freedom, to choose that. Then there is time, the experience of time. I wished he had put these in a better order, but he's just also referring to somebody else, but to Custombaum. But it's about, like, I would have put life and time and death in the beginning to show the existential frame of this. But all right, sometimes this way of putting the words free can also have another impact on us. So time, being in the now, or leaving it, feeling the real and the unreal at the same time. Your attention and your concentration, it's all in time. It's all the here and now experience. And that can shift or get lost or lose intensity. And sometimes you can detach totally and go into what we call a flow, or go into a situation where you lose the sense of time. And time is everything we have, as they say. And you can put your attention on the past in time, what has passed, and stay there, or go back to there and try to focus on what happened. And the second is to look into the future on and leave the here and now. That future can be filled with crisis and trouble, some situations, as you see it. You can see something brewing, coming your way, and you want to prepare for it. And I know we all say, hey, focus on the here and now. That's true and not true at the same time, because we are so that when we see something coming, we want to be prepared and we try to look into it, and that can provide a discharge. But the problem is when we lose the focus on here and now, or we do not use that view of the future to our benefit here and now, then we lose the contact with the only thing we have, and that's the situation we are in right now. The past is gone and the future is unknown. The only and real thing you have is the here and now, the moment you're in, and that's the only moment you can and must cherish in yourself and in whatever deed you are doing. And he also talks about the integration. I can see here, he talks about the integration of what has passed, and how it feels for the now, and the kind of reparation work that can be done because of the past, because of the experience. And that should maybe have been the last word. Maybe I will put it here, the experience. Because with that reflection on ourselves, we gain experience, and experience is very, very deeply profound, important for us as humans. Imagine if you never experienced things and learned from what happened so you can adjust or change or do it again maybe. Experience does not mean just to change. It also may to keep holding on to something that's working. And maybe that's the one that's missing here in this book. And then he finally reaches love, and love is something he uses several pages on. And before I go into it, maybe I will jump to choice and just mention it quickly. Choice and decision is one of the basic human authentic existential way of being. And so the criteria of authentic existence is that you make the choice for yourself, and you do it voluntarily and consciously. So you make the choice with no effects from others or minimum effect. You do it voluntarily and you do it consciously. And you have made a maximization of yourself and your not exploration, not expanding, the maximum expanding of yourself. So that expanding, you open up in that way when you make a choice and a decision that is authentic and that things feels right. And this is the intuition, the slow thinking that has been with you for a long time, makes things feel right or wrong. So when he talks about that, it's in short words, but it's like telling us that if you want to really reach your inner authentic self, you have to do it where you come to a point where your decisions mostly are from yourself, from your inner self, and you are voluntarily taking them. You are conscious about them, and they maximize your self-awareness and your being out there. You expand part of you, and then it feels right at the same time. And so what is the existential recipe on love? He is using custom bound very centrally in this chapter, and this is the meaning of it. But he say love has basically the love as a feeling, and the act as the sex, the contact. And many people can filter these two together, whilst they are actually not necessarily to be cobbled together. Because love is something that is somehow different than sex itself. And so, where is it that he says that? He say that the existential love is pre-sexual. That means it comes before the sex, and it's deeper than it. It's a kind of transcendental awareness of the other. It is something that connects your soul, your inner self to that other person, while sex is the act of connecting the body to the body, or the mind to the body, and doesn't necessarily have that connection in consciousness between you and the other. And so they say the best and most mature people who make love, sex, go into bed, are those who have this connection, because then it's built on something deeper, where your inner self and the other person's inner self are in a way also in love, also connected, exchanging. It's not only the look of the body, and he gives several examples of cases where a woman who looked very, very beautiful and was kind of pin-up for her man, and he always she made him arouse by that, and she was happy arousing him, and that's why she also got aroused by that effect she had on him. but it was all bodily, and all the mentality was on arousing the body, and they didn't have that, you can call it soul connection or connection of the awareness, and that's why it faltered with time, and she stopped arousing by him, and he lost interest, and something happened in between them, and then they got this help of becoming aware of this deeper layer of their connection and became more mature lovers. And so it was like going from one thing to another. And he says here that the existential love is like a mirroring to see and be seen, that I am and who I am is loved by the one who is seeing me and in contact with me. So you understand the inner transcendental nature of that love. There is something that reaches above and over itself and becomes an expression of worship. And the word worship here is not so clear in his talk, and I dwell a lot on it, but I do not want to go too far from the book's main topic. But I believe that we humans are basically existentially worshippers. We need to worship something and to have this attachment, because otherwise would be either psychopathic or gods, and we are neither. So to worship something is part of who we are, and so loves provide us that gate to worship. And so there is a big truth in what religion are telling us. Different religions, actually, I know everybody only know about their own religion mostly, but I have seen into different religions, and they all make this connection between love and like horizontal and vertical love. The love to God and the things above you and the heavens and the other, a new life you're going to get, or the change that's going to happen to you, the acceptance, all that. And the horizontal one, the connection between you and life and the humans in it and nature in it. These two are connected and must be built one upon the other. Of course, in religion, it's the love of God that's higher than the love of life, and from it you can pour into the love of life. And this is totally lost in existential, both psychology and existential and what can you say, modern philosophy, because they want to detach us from everything that's vertical, and in my opinion that's totally wrong. But something is changing. There have been voices that's calling us back to what's natural in this, and some people won't like it, I know that, but I think it's a big loss that we don't have that vertical connection of love. And so he's talking about love as a worship, and he also saying that it is something of being two in one. This is the deep, profound meaning of love. And then he mentions the love for your kids or the people you are attached to in a non-sexual relation. That needs unselfishness, because you can say that the first type of love, where you are seeking the other for his or her beauty or way of being or inner soul, and it reflects you, that's something that provides you with something as well. So you can be selfish or have the interest in that as well without you knowing it. You think you love the other for his own sake, but what you love is your own love and your own sake. And so does the other. And when that fails, or she or he finds somebody else to love, that will and can fade in between them. This is my explanation. Again, it's just using the comments on this book as something that I put into sometimes. And so to learn to love unselfishly, he says in the book here, is found in the parents' kids' way of love, because you're not getting that back in the same way. You can still say that you're getting something back in a different way, but at least it's not sexually, and that's why it's a kind of more pure love, or a love of something else, because this is having kids is not putting you in the centrum anymore, but the next in line, the new generation. That's a long talk about love. And so he ends this chapter by mentioning he uses several stories and cases here, which he hasn't been doing a lot in the previous parts of the book, but so he does here. And he also mentioned old people and say that they can be in a big loss of both kinds of both beauty and love, and that bubbling way of life, but they can redefine sexuality and its meaning, and love it becomes and can become a deeper and more interesting meaning for these people in the old age, even though they lose the meaning of it sexually, or maybe does not get the same experience out of it as before. And so he's actually ending up by some 10 philosophical principles or advices from Kostenbaum's work, and he say have time and space for love, focus on it, and make it authentic. Let it be an engagement that you go wholeheartedly into, and accept your worth as part in that love. Give space for the other at the same time. And there are several others, but maybe I can add one. It's like stay real in that reality of love you are in. A few questions had arisen from this. He's not talking about how it is to be a good or bad human, because maybe this is in that view something that belongs to religion and something constructed in society and not profoundly part of humans. But I think several studies and more psychology is revealing that the core in the human is centered around some kind of correction element in us. In the old days they used to call it consciousness, and that you have your inner awareness of what you do and don't do and what's right and not right. And it was at some point put totally aside, as if it's just culture and religion, and without it you won't have it. But in the times we are in, even though people are more like atheists and not really aware of or don't want to be aware of, or brought up in both societies and homes that's not aware of these ideas, they still have them. And even the societies that are furthest away from religious practices, they have the most awareness of adhering to the law and the guilt you must get if you drive too fast or do something that the law prohibits. And so where does that come from, and why is it nourished if it's not a basic human thing that reflects something in us and not just from outside us? This is an open question here. And another thing he's also like touching on but not really talking about is that the way we think is the way we do things, and the way we do things affects how things become. So that what later is called cognitive psychology is mentioned, but not really talked about. There is no space for it maybe in the book, but that has grown to become a very big way of dealing with stuff, and I can see that it needs some kind of adjustments. I've been reading in cognitive psychology as well for some time, and it's very helpful. And there are a lot of cases and statistics that shows that people, when they become aware of their thoughts and they program a new language and way of thinking and being, it helps the way they are being, and it changes a lot of what they used to do wrong in their words or actions or attitudes. And the programming can be detailed or not detailed, but it's focused on the mental side of you and not really taking these existential situations into account. And if they are, they're just taking them into account as things that can be programmed in your mind and mentality. And I think that's a total unbalance. But that's not touched in. So finally, to finish this very fine chapter, we go back to say that it's about the exploration of who you are and the expansion of who you are, to stand forward with your authentic self. And you are always at risk of being in a false state and to be abandoned or abandon yourself. And you're always like looking into that situation of not losing yourself, afraid of being abandoned by not standing out as you are, as the authentic you. And to be the authentic you, you have to dwell on these or understand that you are surrounded by these 16 elements in your life. And that's what was mentioned earlier or at the beginning. I chose to put them in the total beginning, and let me say them but backward. It's the love and the choice and the contradiction we are living in, and I added experience. There is time, adaptation, reality, engagement, life, the eternal, individuality, self-confidence, death, and pain as the first one. And so when you realize these, or maybe just touch on them in your life, then you understand your existence more openly and more from many sides.